It's been the worry since October that there would be this escalation, that Iran and Israel would go head to head. But most people anticipated that would be via Hezbollah, perhaps in Lebanon or in the northern Israel border. And now that looks like it could change very, very quickly, depending on how Iran retaliates and responds. But my worry is actually more about political instability across the region and the sort of rising sentiment, of course, against Israel, but also, this sort of sentiment of resistance, which makes Arab monarchies particularly vulnerable. And we're seeing this in Jordan, a lot of protest in support of people in Gaza and support for Hamas. And Iran can use that changing sentiment, particularly in Arab monarchies, to create a wedge and to create a source of instability through its proxies. And so we've seen threats or promises to arm perhaps militia that could come from Jordan into Palestine. We've seen perhaps threats more from Iraqi militias, perhaps into entering Jordan. And this is really different than sort of the traditional groups that might be working in favor of Iran. Of course, those are also still active. We're seeing the Houthis expanding their ability to reach Israel with their rockets and missiles. And so it looks like the conflict is indeed widened. And depending on the method that Iran chooses as a retaliation, this could certainly bring in other actors.
We're also learning more about Mohammad Reza Zahedi. He was that senior Iranian commander that was killed in the Damascus strike. This has been called the most significant assassination since Soleimani. We've also heard from Iran's supreme leader, Khamenei, who has vowed to punish Israel for that Syria strike. So when you say the situation in the Middle East and this conflict is widening, what type of response should we expect to see? Could we perhaps see proxies mobilizing across the region as a result?
I think absolutely Iran will lean on its proxies first as a preference. And if it is similar indeed to the U.S. Killing of Qasem Soleimani, there was sort of a muted response there. The response happened in Iraq. So I think there are definitely concerns, particularly in northern Iraq, in Iraqi Kurdistan, that could be a site of retaliation. We would look also perhaps at, of course, any kind of Israeli embassy, but also U.S. facilities. And there have long been sort of accusations of Israelis and having a presence in Iraqi Kurdistan. But this could be much wider than that. I think, in the past, we've seen incidents of Iranian terrorism in Eastern Europe, in South America. It could be far and wide. And then I think the worst case scenario is, of course, a direct Iranian retaliation against Israel.
Which, of course, remains to be seen at this point. And Karen, just before I let you go, we have to focus it back on what's happening in the markets here, because, of course, oil also tracking at a 5-month high off the back of this heightened geopolitical tensions. What would you say is the geopolitical price premium right now, and how do you expect developments in the oil market to unfold as a result?
Well, I mean, we will see the JMC meeting tomorrow. I don't expect that we're going to see any sort of relaxation of those cuts, because keep in mind that OPEC Plus is sitting on about 5 million barrels a day of spare capacity. And that's what this tension is sort of masking, that there is such still sort of plentiful supply of oil. But that could change, and that could change depending on where tensions rise and where we might see a widening of the conflict, particularly if it were to happen in any transit routes out of the Strait of Hormuz or more direct into oil facilities in the region.